You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'm quite excited about today's program. We have another scientist with us, a glaciologist, and her name is Dr. Heidi Sevestre. She is a member of the Secretariat of AMAP, A-M-A-P, Arctic Monitoring and Assessment Program, working group of the Arctic Council. Big name for what she does. And she devotes her life, actually, to science and to raising public awareness of climate issues. She's recognized worldwide for her involvement and her courage in frontline research, leading unprecedented expeditions. Her goal is to make scientific facts more accessible and to inspire people to join the fight against the climate crisis. Sounds like it's right up our alley, huh? She shares her time between science communications through international conferences and speaking engagements, films, books, and science outreach, and expeditions, unprecedented ones, on glaciers. Her outreach work and field expeditions were awarded by a Shackleton Medal in 2022. And she recently released 3 books, all in French, which will soon, we hope, be in English. And then I'll have some heartening words after that. But right now we have to take a quick break, and then I'll be back directly with Dr. Heidi Sevestre, who is fun, after this brief message. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Dr. Heidi Sevestre. Heidi, it's so wonderful to have you here. When we had Twyla Moon here recently, she was raving about you. And so now I expect the other in return, because what a dynamo pair you are, individually and en masse. God, welcome. I'm glad that you're here.
Oh, thank you so much, Robin. And please allow me to rave about Twyla Moon.
Well, be my guest.
She's such a hero of mine. It was just wonderful to hear the conversation that you two have together. Powerful words, but also, full of hope, full of action, full of solutions to preserve our climate and our common future. So, I really appreciate the opportunity that you're giving us to share our biggest passion and to kind of motivate everyone to show that it's not too late.
No, it's not too late, and we have remarkably activist listeners who, I always say, listen with a pen in their hand, ready to write letters and ready to act. And but I have had my despairing moments, particularly at this point in the United States, as you can well imagine, with him who shall not be named, in charge, and because many scientists say it's already in effect too late. I mean, we've already passed a certain watershed, and there's no regaining. So to have this news come, and to have it come from not one but 2, and in this case from you, young, dynamic, scientific women, is like balm in Gilead. It is really music to my ears and my soul. So I'm just going to say, take it away. And you are a glaciologist also.
I am. Absolutely. And, I feel in a way extremely fortunate to be a glaciologist today, even though my parents would probably say, well, there's probably not a lot of future into studying ice today, right?
Well,
Um,
parents, you know.
they care, and of course they want
Yes.
the best, for us. So I totally understand. But um, I feel just like Twyla mentioned, extremely fortunate to get the chance to study environments that are not only just mesmerizing, I mean, so incredibly beautiful that every time I get to, travel to the polar regions or even just look at glaciers in the French Alps, which is where I'm from,
Mm,
I'm always mesmerized and I'm totally in love with these environments. But today I feel also extremely lucky because my job, which is the same as Twyla's, is to better understand what these glaciers are trying to tell us because they're full of wisdom. They can tell us so much about how the climate has changed in the past.
yes.
They can tell us about what's happening today, the speed of change. And, studying glaciers truly today is about trying to save human lives.
Yeah.
We know there are, entire populations that rely on fresh water from glaciers. We know that there are millions of people, if not billions, who will be impacted by sea level rise. So I feel lucky to be able, to follow my passion every day, but also, a certain responsibility, I think,
Mm,
to do the very best possible work and to communicate it to the masses to really propel people into action and help them understand that, sure, the situation is not great. This is probably an understatement, but it's not too late to act. We can still make a difference today. And there are many, many reasons why we can make a difference today. We have all the cards in our hands, all the solutions we need already exist. We just need a fair amount of political courage to implement them at scale now.
yeah. Yeah. It is remarkable because I mean, I've always been a science geek, and loved science and what it can teach us and everything that it is. Uh, and and recently, even more with the assaults against it,
Mm.
administratively and not just in the United States, but unfortunately catching, so it's around the world. That's very frightening, because many of the scientists say it's already too late. We've already turned a corner, and we've got about 5 years, and then we've had it, or the downward trajectory is assured, and that fills me with despair. And I know it fills others with despair. So I
Mm.
harp on that because that's a small window, but it is a window, and if we have it and we can do something about it, for God's sake, in whom I do not believe unless she's a scientist. Um, but for God's sake, let's do it. So I just want to let you loose on the kind of solutions and the kind of
Mm.
actions you think should be taken as a glaciologist. They're also, by the way, I found so beautiful, so beautiful. When my son was about 11, we went to Alaska. I was on a speaking tour, and we got to see the insides of glaciers as they calved.
Oh, wow.
And the blue was just heartbreakingly beautiful, exquisite blue. And I've never forgotten that. And every time I hear that a piece of Antarctica broke off, I think, well, at least it's
Mhm.
pretty. But but that's not good enough. So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Robin, I would love to mention a study that was published not long ago about the glaciers of the European Alps. And I'm sorry, I pronounce it glaciers,
No, no,
as a
no.
French person would, because
That's
it's actually a French word originally.
yeah. So
Um,
it deserves
but
the proper
so
pronunciation.
exactly, important, important. But the study mentioned that, if we act today, we could still preserve about 40% of the mass of ice that we have in our mountains. And these glaciers are not only important for the freshwater resources that they bring, we use the freshwater for many different things.
Of
In
course.
France, to cool down nuclear power plants, we use it to irrigate crops, we use it to produce hydroelectricity. So it is super important. But what's crucial is that we can still make a difference today. We could still preserve 40% of these glaciers. And it's not just the uses we do, but it's also their cultural importance that we often forget.
Yes.
Glaciers, I often say this, but they're our past, they're our present, they're our future. Um, and they're a part of who we are because humanity has never known a planet without ice. Like, isn't that crazy? We've
Ah,
always, from, the time when we detected the first Homo sapiens sapiens, there's always been ice on planet Earth, whether it was just ice at the poles, whether it was, bigger glaciers on different mountain ranges.
right.
But we are intimately connected to ice. And to know that today, actually, sure, if we're able to, continue investing oh my God, I was about to say in fossil fuels, if we're able today to continue investing in renewables, if we're able to drastically cut our emissions,
Mm,
we can truly preserve a big portion of these glaciers today. And as Twyla explained so very clearly, this comes with a lot of co-benefits. It's not just good for the glaciers, it's good for human health. It's good for ecosystems health.
of
It's good
course.
for our economy, for jobs. There are so many good reasons why we should do it. But also, beyond cutting emissions, we know that there are other solutions that work. And I'm going to tell you a little story about a project that I've been working on for the past few years in the country of Colombia.
Uh-huh.
When we think of glaciers, we might not think of Colombia, but Colombia is, my country of heart today. I fell in love with this country back in 2019.
Uh-huh.
And it's a country that still has about 70 small glaciers nested on their tallest mountains, their tallest volcanoes. There are very tall mountains in Colombia, believe me, I got to know this very clearly. And these mountains are above, let me think in feet, they're above 15,000 feet. So they're
Ah,
pretty high.
yeah.
And so this is the reason why we still have ice in these mountains. And so a few years ago, I got invited by this amazing woman called Marcela Fernandez. She had just started a small NGO in Colombia called Cumbres Blancas Colombia. What was so genuinely, incredibly generous, but also smart about their NGO is that not only they were helping to fund the work of the one glaciologist in Colombia, Jorge Luis Ceballos, but also they were working on solutions.
Mm,
And there's something key that they were able to understand in Colombia is that deforestation around the mountains, cutting down the trees,
yeah.
burning the wetlands, drying the wetlands around the glaciers. All of this was contributing to catalyzing the melting of the glaciers. So, what Marcela did with her friends, the indigenous communities, the scouts, the army, the football teams of Colombia, incredible gang of people,
What
they
organizing?
decided. Exactly right. And she was able to bring everyone together around this common cause of the glaciers. But not only they focused a lot on education, on educating the country, they also started replanting, reforesting
Ah,
um, the wetlands, the paramos, which are these very special ecosystems around the glaciers. And this helps to basically capture more humidity around the mountains and hopefully will slow down the melting of the glaciers.
ah,
And the reason why I want to tell you this story is because there's just something so beautiful about learning, from the local people, from
yeah.
the indigenous communities. And, they are the true experts of these places. They know what works.
Of
So
course they do.
it's been a joy, working with
Ah,
them. So yeah, lots
well,
of things we can learn from Colombia.
it must be a joy for them also to have you as an international expert, come and an expert who understands them and will listen to them and pays them respect, come and work with them. I mean, it is really symbiotic
Mm,
and wonderful, absolutely wonderful. My God. Ah, God. So when when we're told, I mean, when, as we currently have in the United States, and I take great comfort that the United States is not the world, but
mm,
it is rapidly, frighteningly, terrifyingly becoming the world. or there's too much, how shall I say, uniformity on the right. Um, and and I don't know what to do about that.
Mm.
In other words, people come up all the time and say, well, you have a podcast, you're on the internet, what can we do? And as a feminist leader, I look particularly to women's leadership, and it's always quite marvelous. I mean, recently I did a show on um, with Madeline Beekman. She's an ethnobiologist, and she's written a fantastic book called The Origin of Language, which is about how language did not come about because of, as all the boys say, and with Chomsky and his whole group of war and hunting and manly. It came about because of the development of the brain taking so long in the human embryo, and that in turn was a matter of childcare. And
Wow.
everything suddenly falls into place. You understand why women need it. You understand it all. Um, so I look to science because it gives me hope, and it is the only thing at this point that gives me hope. Um, and when I'm trying to tell or suggest to people what they can do, I always say everything. Do whatever you can. Everything. Pick up a cigarette butt. I mean, seriously, whatever you can. Um, and that makes a difference. But if there's anything more in particular that they should be doing, lay it on.
Mm. Wow. I mean, wonderful. There are a few keywords that I will keep in mind about what you just said, care, caring for
Ah,
someone else's life,
yeah.
and the importance of language, of course. To me, a key necessary first step towards action has always been education.
Mm,
And education doesn't have to come from, experts or scientists, but of course it is our responsibility as scientists to provide as much information as possible. I had to make this shift in my career actually quite early, and especially because I was looking at how talented Twyla was at disseminating, scientific results and how impactful she was. And she really comforted me in the direction I was taking in, knowing that, oh yeah, this is what we need to be doing. We need to not only do the best possible science, but we need to make sure it is accessible to everyone. It
yes,
shouldn't be elitist. So today, our responsibility is, of course, to disseminate this science, and we need help in order to do that, in order to educate everyone. When I come back home to France, which is not very often, I got the chance today to go into factories.
mm,
I get the chance to go into, technical colleges, for example,
mm,
places where they've probably never seen a glaciologist or even a scientist before.
right.
And I think it is so, so very important that we go to these places where, we've never been invited before. So all
Ah,
the help we can get to meet as many people as possible, to have these conversations, these difficult conversations, but most importantly, to give people the key to better understand what's happening to our climate today, but most importantly, the key to make the right decisions for their future. This is where we need to be. So
absolutely.
education is absolutely the key. And, I always give myself a challenge when I go to the hairdresser, for example. I mean, people cannot see my face here, but I have pretty short hair. I've got kind of a French pixie cut, I guess. And my challenge every time I go to the hairdresser is to give like a keynote about climate change, whether they want it or not.
I see.
And
That's excellent.
you wouldn't believe the discussions we end up having at the hairdresser salon, because actually people do care. And people sometimes
They
do
just don't
not
know what
know.
to do. They don't know
They
what to
don't
do.
know what to do. They don't know where they can find the information. They receive a lot of misinformation as well.
Yeah.
So the first step is of course education. And then you're totally right. I think Jane Fonda said it.
Oh, yes.
She said the best remedy
Is
for
action.
climate anxiety is action, exactly. And the good thing about this is that we can all do something. And one of my best friends tells me that with his family, what they do now every month is to try to reduce their electricity invoice as much as possible. So, for example, he would say, okay, by next month, we need to
Uh-huh.
reduce it by 2%. By the following month, we need to reduce it by 5%. And this is not only great because you're saving money, but it's
Yeah.
also great for the planet. So I love these small, achievable challenges that
Uh-huh.
we can totally do on, an individual or even, family level.
Right.
So small challenges like this, or, one day a week, we're not going to eat meat. One
Hmm.
day a week, we're going to go to school, using, I don't know, electric vehicles or electric buses or use public transport. All these small achievable steps always lead to something bigger.
Yeah.
And that's what is key, is that individual action will truly start having an impact when we start moving on to the collective level. And
Uh-huh.
I believe that, if you're able to save on electricity every month, you're probably going to tell your friends, you're probably going to tell your colleagues
That's
about
right.
this.
People will.
And
Yes.
slowly but surely, this is going to start becoming some kind of a movement. But truly, I mean, the few things that really have a huge impact today, I mean, you know what they are, is to vote for people who understand
Yes, of course.
what's happening to our climate and to biodiversity, is also to start. So that's it takes a little bit of work, but it makes a huge difference. Is to start asking your bank what they do with your own savings,
Uh-huh.
because at the moment, unfortunately, it pays off well to invest in fossil fuels, which is should never be the case
That's
in
right.
today. But try to find a bank that will use your money to invest in solutions for the future, in renewables, in new food systems, new agricultural practices, for example. And this still generates revenue. I mean, this still totally works.
These
And
are
last
all
but not
practical. These are all very practical. And
yeah, these are very, very practical. And the last one, I mean, there are two competing ones, but it's the diet, of course, that we all have. So try to cut on beef, try to cut on meat as much as possible. Or also cars, trying to cut down on using your private car. This is
hmm,
something that in some places is very difficult, especially I think in the US it's quite tricky, right? But where I'm from, the French countryside, I was born in a very small village lost in the mountains. If you still today, if you don't have a car, you can't get anywhere.
yeah.
um, so you can pick, right? Vote, ask your bank what they do with your savings, or it could be car
Hmm.
diet. They equally work. So all of these can have a really tremendous positive impact on our planet.
Oh, God, that is so refreshing to hear. And it's refreshing also because it puts control back in the hands of people who feel very otherwise controlled, you know, and who are being controlled and manipulated, and whether it's by corporations or by government or by whatever. So that this is you're a missionary of sorts, you're but you're a missionary for science, and you're a missionary for education, um and why do you think that when you said we go and we speak to technical colleges and to places where technicians work, and why do you think we said we're rarely invited, or if ever, why do you think that is? Is
This is a really good
prejudice?
question. Um, I think, and I think we saw that very clearly during COVID. There's sort of a loss of trust in science and scientists, and science still to this day feels a lot, I mean, it's too elitist.
Yeah.
Um, and this is definitely our responsibility. And there is the scientific jargon. It takes a lot of years of studying to become a scientist, so it's
Right.
very intimidating. And unfortunately, I think it's such a shame that we believe that when people work in factories or when people go to these technical or even agricultural colleges, that they shouldn't it's probably not that it's not important enough for them to know about the latest science, but actually quite the contrary. I don't want to stigmatize, but we should never forget that climate change always impacts the most vulnerable people,
First,
right?
yes, first and
And
worst.
and this is so very important. And this is, the main reason why science shouldn't be elitist. We should make sure that these people have the same amount of knowledge as, people who are more well off, who are more comfortable, because they deserve to make the right choices politically, financially, career wise, study wise. They deserve, of course, to have the same amount of knowledge about our collective future, because our collective future is directly impacted by climate change. So luckily, I'm so happy to see that there are lots of new initiatives taking scientists and bringing them into, these classrooms, these factories, these boardrooms. And let me tell you, the best conversations I've ever had after, a talk or a keynote I would give about climate change were definitely in these circles. Um,
Aha.
and I've always been, astonished, but in such a good way about, you know, how people understood immediately what was happening, and they understood that we needed to do something about it. So when you give them the right information, of course they can make the right decision. But also, let me be very clear, it's not up to them to make the largest amount of efforts when it comes to cutting emissions, to cutting,
No, of
the amount
course
of
not.
fossil fuels that we use.
But it is
It's
up to them to
us.
put pressure and us.
Yeah, they can absolutely put pressure. They can vote for the right people. So that's why it's crucial to be there. And so now one of the things I'm absolutely obsessed with is how can I spend more time in those circles, and
Mm.
giving the right amount of information to these people. And it's so enriching. I feel it's such a privilege to get the chance to do this. And I feel giddy about visiting factories now. I'm so excited about this. I feel giddy about going to agricultural technical colleges because I learned so much from them. So this makes me, I think, a better scientist. It makes me a better communicator. And so I get to learn a lot from these people as well. It's
Ugh,
it's a
this is
true privilege. Yeah.
so encouraging and heartening because, I mean, right now, again, in the States and in U.S. influenced countries, which are not few, there is an assault on education. And in the States, it's the Christianizing, right-wing nationalism, Christianizing of education, and so and banning of books, and I mean at the
Mm,
most basic level. So you have courageous librarians fighting back on the front lines, um, and and people are hungry for knowledge. People are really, I
absolutely.
mean, when it's available, I think, and is made available, which is not
Mm,
always easy in the internet age, but when it's available, they will seek it out. I mean, they will look for it, and not deny it. But the question is how to make it available. And there,
mm.
we should just clone you. We clone you, and we clone Twyla, and we have millions of little Twylas and little and little Heidis, and we send them everywhere, absolutely everywhere. This is the answer to saving the planet. But no, seriously, when Elon Musk talks about colonizing other planets, this is the most depressing no notice that I've had ever. It's like we're now spreading the infection,
Mm.
and and that's terrifying. But you are very good news. You're just absolutely wonderful. How do people find you, and how do people, if they want a lecture, if they want
Mm.
uh, to have some education. Again, my readers, my listeners, listen with a pencil in their hand, ready to scroll down any information they can. How do they find you?
No, that's so sweet. Thank you so much for asking, Robin. What I would probably tell them is to, first of all, look at scientists who are in their vicinity, because I'm sure that there are, and I'm
Yeah,
sure they're wonderful, and I'm sure they're hungry to share their passion, their knowledge with everyone. Scientists, we're so geeky and so passionate. We cannot be stopped when we start
I
talking about
adore you.
what we
I
care
just
about.
love you. I love you.
But of course, yeah, if they're curious about the work that I do and the expeditions that I'm on, they can simply follow me on social media. Heidi Sevestre is fairly easy to find me, or on my website, heidisevestre.com. And I'm actually about to embark on probably the biggest expedition of my entire life. I'm a bit stressed about it, but I cannot wait. It's an expedition that we're conducting with the support of UNESCO because
Wow.
I mean, and few people know about this, but UNESCO has just started a decade of action around the cryosphere. So what Twyla was describing so clearly as all the snow and ice regions
Mm-hmm.
of the planet. And so this expedition will take place in Antarctica, so around the South Pole for 3 months, and
Oh,
will be crossing the entire continent between the beginning of November 2025 and the end of January 2026.
wow.
And we'll be doing this, so it's just the two of us. It's a research mission, but we're trying to decarbonize polar research as much as possible. So, I mean, you're going to probably laugh at this, but the expedition will be using the power of the wind to travel across Antarctica. So we'll be using kites.
Oh,
We'll have
oh,
skis on
how
our feet. And so
wonderful.
if people are curious about the expedition, it's called Under Antarctica, underantarctica.com. And I'm very lucky to be able to do this expedition with a French adventurer called Mathieu Tordeur. But I'm just mentioning the expedition because the expedition will come with a very ambitious educational program that is totally free, that is put together by an amazing French NGO and UNESCO. So it's both in French and in English, and people will be able to sign up for free and receive every 10 days or so a little educational package about, what is the cryosphere, what's Antarctica, why do we need
The
to
basic
study the
stuff.
ice.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, a little bit terrified as well, but I cannot wait.
And it's called underantarctica.com.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, we will be. I will sign up. We will be there, and the best of possible luck and the best of possible wishes for
Thank
you
you.
and the planet. Because with people like you on our side, I mean, I think that there's. I feel more hope this morning than in a very, very long time,
Oh,
and
thank you
that's
so
a
much.
great, great and wonderful gift, and I'm
Thank you,
very
Robin.
grateful to you for it. Bless you.
Oh,
And
right back
and
at you.
and
Thank you
when
so
and
much.
when and when that when this is done, will you come back and tell us about the trip after it's done?
Absolutely. Oh,
Oh,
anytime, Robin. That would
okay.
be my biggest delight. Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, I couldn't be more pleased. Thank you so much.
You too. See you soon.
It's time for another short break here, but I'll be back directly with some heartening words. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
A few humble words of, shall we say, dare we say, celebration. I don't think we've celebrated sufficiently the return of Jimmy Kimmel to the airwaves and what it means. For one thing, when Colbert Late Night Show, his show, was canceled with an announcement that next year would no longer be in evidence, there wasn't the urgent sense of outrage. It wasn't happening right then and there, although the same backdoor under-the-table dealing was present in that Paramount was needing FCC approval for a merger, and that involved CBS as well. In fact, as Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts, said, quote, CBS canceled Colbert's show just 3 days after he called out CBS owner Paramount for its $16 million settlement with Trump, a deal that looks like bribery. America deserves to know if his show is canceled for political reasons, period, close quote. Ha, ha. For another thing, Sinclair and Nexstar, two massive, huge network affiliates, just enormous in their power, who distribute Kimmel among other shows, most other shows, backing down was really a major triumph for us. Sinclair is a gargantuan right-wing affiliate, and Tegna is not far behind. The Tegna deal was to be in the $80 million. The FCC rules that nothing can broadcast to more than 31% of the population in any given area to minimize, monopolizing an audience's attention and avoid that. The Tegna deal was to broadcast to millions, which shatters those rules. And they would have needed FCC approval and dispensation to get the clout to do that. Now, both of these are really huge triumphs, and small as they might feel to us, they're not. They were done haphazardly and sort of a semi-boycott here and a picket there and lots of letters and people being grouchy, and it worked. It worked. This is the time when we have to lean in and push hard, harder than ever before, because these first few signs are the simple fact that when you stand up to them, they begin to wilt. They're not used to being challenged. Totalitarianism is not accustomed to it. Autocracy gets confused when its rules are challenged, and that's what we have to do more and more and more and more of. A little nip here, a nibble there. Oh, and one more word this time of alert, a kind of watch for it. I've noticed lately that Trump's been saying more frequently the phrase, "in my opinion." Sometimes he even says, "in my humble opinion," although he always says it with a smirk. He's saying it quite a lot when he used to say it not at all. And I've thought about this, and I believe that this is a purposeful, intentional mantra in preparation for his being widely challenged on First Amendment grounds by virtually all the press which he's attacked, as in fact we began to do and we're doing more of. It's intended, I think, so that he can always retreat behind it and say, well, it was just my opinion, as if an opinion from the President of the United States mattered just not at all. We can't permit him to do this evasive maneuver. We can't permit him to avoid conveniently any responsibility for the various disasters he leaves in his footprints. So, it's just a thought. When you hear him say, it's just my opinion, after some lethal statement, it's not that simple. Just a thought. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on social media at The Robin Morgan. You can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net, and you can find my new novel, Parallax, and my just-out new book of poems, Harvesting Darkness, wherever books are sold. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center live. Executive producer, as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer for this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us next time on Women's Media Center Live.